All right. So just to get started, a little bit about who we are at the Permanent Legacy Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization, and we have created and maintained permanent.org, which is a platform that's focused on digital preservation and really aimed at individuals, small organizations, and community groups. And our purpose is really to allow you to use our tool to create archives that represent your legacy, whether that be your family history research or whether that be history about your community, or even your personal photos that you want to pass down to your kids and grandkids one day. Whatever the word legacy means to you, we want to help you make sure that it's preserved and passed down to the people that you want to be able to see it. So our mission is to preserve and provide perpetual access to the digital legacy of all people for the historical and educational benefit of future generations. And at Permanent, we really like to lean into that all people, because we know that, history hasn't always been recorded for every single person. There are stories missing, whether that be through purposeful omission or just, loss of materials and stories. And so we really want to provide a platform that allows people to preserve the stories that they think are important, so that they can be accessible to the future so that we can learn from them. So one of the things that really makes Permanent a little bit distinct from some of the other platforms in this space is that we are a nonprofit. And so our cost model is a little bit different than you may have seen before. We run on an endowment. And so how this works is that when you want to upload material to Permanent, it costs a one-time storage fee of $10 per gigabyte. And so those storage fees and donations go into our endowment, and the endowment covers the cost of storage and maintenance of your materials over time. So that means that you don't have to pay any subscription fees or anything like that that could, run out if you change your credit card information, or if you pass away and you're no longer in control of, credit cards and things like that. You don't have to worry about your material disappearing. You've paid that one-time storage fee, and it covers the cost of preserving that material over time. So that was just a little bit about Permanent and who we are. I think you'll learn a lot more if I kind of show you the platform and show you what people have created on our platform. So I'm going to switch screens just real fast and show you what one of our members created earlier this year on Permanent as part of Legacy Lab. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. All right. So what you're seeing right now is somebody's public archive that they've created. We'll go over a little bit more about the different parts of your archives, but just to orient you here, public archive is the material in your archive that you've chosen to share publicly with the world. So you don't have to be logged in order to see this information. This person has chosen to show it and make it available for anybody on the internet. So this public archive is actually about this person's family dairy farm that they had. And I think it's a really fun archive because there's lots of interesting pictures and papers and materials. So on Permanent, you can upload pretty much anything, any kind of file that you want. You can upload documents, you can upload PowerPoints, spreadsheets, photos, videos, pretty much whatever you want. If it's made of bits, we can preserve it. So this archive has lots of different things. I'm going to go ahead and click into the dairy photos because that's fun to look at. And you can navigate this basically the same way that you would like folders on your desktop or things like that. An archive can be organized into different folders that kind of organize all the material that you'd like to share. So I've navigated into a folder, and we can click in and start to see some of the material that this person has shared on their archive. So we have a picture of somebody working in the dairy, and you can flip through these photos. We also have a zoom feature, so you can zoom in and out depending on what kind of photos you're showing. And over here on the right side is all of the information about the file that's been uploaded. So you have the opportunity when you upload files to name the file, add a description, add dates, tags, alt text, which is important for people who are using screen readers, and a location. So that's kind of a little bit about what a public archive looks like. Some of the other things that I haven't pointed out yet on a public archive are the title here. You have the ability in your public archive to write some notes about what the archive is, to kind of orient people to better understand what they're going to see in your archive. Because sometimes if you just kind of land on a page, you're not really sure, what the context is here. So we have things like locations, like this was in Michigan. There's an about section where people can write a summary of the material they're going to show in their archive. And of course, there is also a profile picture and banner similar to other social media to kind of, give additional context to the archive. On the public profile, which I just clicked on, it also gives more information. So you've got the summary, some more information about the archive, and then the milestones. And the milestones are a way that you can kind of start to tell the history of the material that you're trying to share on Permanent. So in this case, some of the milestones that this person has put in are, when the formation of the company was, and when it changed hands. So this just gives you the opportunity to kind of see what people create on Permanent. I think it's always fun to kind of learn new stories and see what our members are creating, and just get an idea of what you can do on Permanent. I see in the chat that somebody isn't able to see my screen. I just want to double check that everybody is able to see the public archive that I've been sharing before we move on. Okay. Cool. So now that I've shown you kind of the end goal of what you can hope to create on Permanent, I want to take you back a couple of steps and show you what you're seeing now and kind of get you oriented to the platform. So if you have already created an account, you will probably land on a page that looks kind of similar to this, but maybe with less stuff in it right now. This is the archive that you've created. Hopefully, if you've gone through the process of creating your account, one of the first steps that you did was create an archive. And an archive is basically a collection of material about a person, a group, a family, an organization, whatever you want your archive to be about. It works very similar to how, like Dropbox or even your computer works. You've got a couple of different workspaces that we'll go over, and a couple of different areas for the archive and for your account. So I'm going to point those out now. So the first thing that I want to point out is up here in the top right corner. You should see the email address that you registered with. If you click this menu, it'll drop down and you can see some information and menus that have to deal with your account. So on Permanent, when you create an account, you can create as many archives as you want. So I could have an account, or I could have an archive about my family. I could also have an archive about a community group that I'm a part of. And I could also have one about the local soccer team that I'm a part of. You can create as many as you want. And so the way that you would do that is over here. So I'm going to walk you through these couple of menu items. So the first one is up here at the top. You have the amount of storage that you have on Permanent. When you first signed up for Permanent, you should have received a code to redeem a free gigabyte of storage on us so that you can try Permanent out risk-free and kind of see if it's something that you're interested in. You'll see how much storage you've used up and how much is available up here at the top. If you need to add additional storage, you can do that in the storage menu. And then under that is the account menu. And the account menu is anything that basically has to do with your personal account on Permanent. One tab that I will point out now is the billing information. We should probably change that so it doesn't say billing. We don't send you an email or anything like that, but I do highly recommend going ahead and filling out some of the information in your account settings, just because it allows you to make sure that if you ever lose access to your account for any reasons, or lose access to your email, for instance, that we have some information that we can verify so that we know who you are and we can get you logged back into your account. So I would highly recommend filling out some of this information. The next menu is the archive menu. This is where you can see a list of all of the archives that you're a part of, and you can also create a new archive. So as you can see here, I have 39 archives. You can have 100 archives. You could have 1,000 archives if you wanted. That would be quite a lot, but you could do it. You can have as many as you need to make sure that your materials are preserved. Also in this account menu is where you can log out if you need to. The next thing that I want to point out is this left side here. Everything on this left side has to do with the archive that you're currently checked into. So you can tell which archive that you're checked into because you can see the name of it right here. So right now we're looking at the Astronomy Photo of the Day archive, which is one of my test archives with space photos. And you can also see the profile picture up here. So if you find yourself in the wrong archive, you can always change that by going back up to your account menu, going to archives, and then choosing the archive that you want to open. But for now, we can stick with the space photos. And everything underneath here are different workspaces in your archive. So this is getting to what I was talking about with the public archive earlier. On Permanent, we like to make sure that you have complete control over how you want your material to be shared with other people. So by default, everything that you put onto Permanent is private first. You control who has access to your archive, and anybody who doesn't have access won't be able to see your material, especially if it's in the private files workspace. You also have the option to publish material and share it with the internet, with the world. You don't need a login to be able to see that. And so the different workspaces allow you to do that. So you land when you open your archive in your private files workspace. And this is where you'll want to upload material that you want to preserve, that you want to keep private only to people who have access to your archive. So you are able to add people to view your archive and to make changes, but they need a permanent login in order to do that. And you have total control over inviting them and managing their privileges in your archive. If you ever want to publish something, those files live in your public files workspace. So anything that you put into this workspace is going to appear on your public archive and will be available for anybody on the internet to view without a login. This second workspace is the shared files workspace. This is kind of a little bit of a middle ground between private material and public material. You can share things with other archives on Permanent, and the other person still needs to have a permanent login in order to access it, but it only allows them to see the one file or the one folder that you've shared with them instead of your entire archive. So this is a great way to share material with people on Permanent without giving them access to your full archive. If you click the public gallery, that's where you'll see our public archives that have been shared by other members of Permanent. So I highly recommend checking that out for inspiration. The last workspace I want to show you is the app files workspace. This is where you can find our Family Search integration. If you use Family Search, you can log in with your Family Search account and import your ancestors as archives, and any memories that are associated with them, you can pull into your Permanent archive. There is some information about how to use our Family Search integration that I can share, or Han can share in the chat. So to go back to the private workspace, in order to kind of upload material on Permanent, you can use this upload button here. Or you can drag and drop material from your desktop or your computer onto Permanent, and it will start uploading. And so this workspace works pretty similarly to files and folders on your computer. You've got your list of files that are in this workspace. If you want to organize them, you can add new folders and move things around. When you click on a particular file or folder, you'll see that a new toolbar appears at the top, and that's where you can see some of the actions you can take on an individual file. So you can do things like delete, copy, move, share, publish, or download. And then over here on the right side is where you can edit metadata, like I showed you earlier on the public archive. So this is where you can change the name of the file. You can add a description. And as you can see, this is a pretty long description. There's no character limits on this field, so you can kind of just put whatever you want. You can also change the alt text to describe your image, especially so that if you publish it, screen readers are able to read that description out to the person using a screen reader and makes it more accessible. You can also add tags to your materials. Tags are a great way to kind of pull material together under the same like person or location or things like that, and they're searchable. So if you want to find all the photos from your grandfather, for instance, if you tag them with his name, you'd be able to search them in your archive. Custom metadata is a little bit of an advanced feature, but I'll go over it really quickly. We recognize that on Permanent, we have pretty limited metadata fields to keep it accessible for people who are brand new to archiving. But some people might want to go above and beyond what we have. So custom metadata allows you to add new metadata fields to Permanent and then put in their value. So things like that I've added here are things like image credit. We don't have an image credit field on Permanent, but I was able to create one through custom metadata. You can also change the date and location of each of your files. And here at the bottom is just some basic metadata about the file when you uploaded it, when it was modified, the size, etc. The last thing I want to show you before we move on is there is a archive menu dropdown here on the left side by the name. So if you drop this arrow down, you'll see a couple of different things. The one in particular I want to highlight is the archive profile, which we saw earlier on the public side. So if you click on archive profile, this is where you can add more information about your archive itself. So if you ever need to change the archive name, you can do that here. And then you can also just add some description so people know what to expect from your archive. There's a little bit more information. You can add an email address if you want people to be able to contact you, if you have a website you'd like to share, and then you can add the milestones like we saw earlier. So you can create as many milestones as you want. So that's a pretty quick tour of your first archive on Permanent. I'm going to go back to my slideshow, and we have a quick poll just to kind of see how people are doing. I know that was a lot of information to learn at first. So I'm just going to check in and see how things are going. Let me start that poll real fast. All right. So hopefully you should see that on your screen now. There are 2 questions. The first one is, how many archives can you create with your Permanent account? And where can you change or fill out your account profile information, such as your name and address? Just kind of see how people are doing. Looks like we've got answers rolling in. Everybody's got it right so far, so that's awesome. I'll just leave it open for just a minute more to see if everybody has had the chance to answer. I also see that there's been some questions in chat. I think Khan has been answering those. We can, if we have a minute at the end, we can go over some of those, or if you have any questions that we need to pull up a Permanent archive to look at, we'll be able to do that at the end. Awesome. So it looks like everybody got those right. You can create as many archives as you want on Permanent, and you can fill out your name and address in your account menu. So Now we're going to move on to a section where I'm going to point out a couple of different places where you can find additional help on Permanent. So we have a lot of different resources that we've created to kind of help you get started on Permanent. I'm going to list them all here, and then I'm going to show you where you can find them. So the first one is to sign up for our newsletter. We also have a blog and a podcast. We have a calendar of events. We also have support documentation and places where you can submit a ticket so that you can talk with us more about any questions or issues that you have. And we also have a YouTube channel where you can find videos and tutorials. So I'm going to show you where you can find each of those. So if you go to our website, which is just permanent.org, you'll be taken to our homepage. This is where, if you haven't already signed up, you can do so in the top right corner here, and of course, log in if you need to. The first thing that I wanted to point out is where you can sign up for our emails. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and at the bottom of the website here is where you can sign up for a newsletter. If you want to fill in your email address and your name, that will subscribe you to our mailing. We try not to send too much information. We do have a monthly newsletter where we talk about, things related to Permanent, make announcements for new features and things like that. We also have a new product updates email, and we sometimes send out notifications about webinars and stuff that are coming up. So you have the ability to kind of manage what kinds of emails you want to see from us. So I highly recommend signing up for our emails so that you can get more information about what we're doing at Permanent and keep involved. The second thing that I wanted to point out is our blog. So if you go up here to the top of our homepage and go to resources, there are a couple different resources here actually. So the first one is the blog. And if you click on that, you'll see we post blogs a couple times a month. Some of them range from public archive spotlights, which is similar to what we saw earlier with the public archive. It's just, Permanent members who have created something cool on Permanent that they want to share. We also have some information about kind of how to get started on Permanent. So, things like how to decide what settings to use for digitization and things like that. So I highly recommend checking out the blog if you have questions about getting started or kind of want to know more about Permanent. Another resource that you can find under the resource tab here is our podcast. Last year, we ran a podcast called Our Digital Futures. And through 12 episodes, we kind of explored different aspects of preservation and digitization and genealogy and things like that. So they're pretty short episodes. They're about 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes each. And I definitely recommend some of those, for instance, talking metadata with professional archivists is always a great one for getting started with describing your materials. We have one about last year's Save Your Photos Month, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Kathy Nelson of the Photo Managers. So I definitely recommend checking those out if you're interested in just learning more about Permanent and getting some tips on how to do certain things like digitization and organization. The other thing that I want to show you here under resources is our events calendar. So on our events calendar, we post our events that are happening. So like new member orientation, that's today. And we also try to post events that are partners and people that we know in the community are having that are related to preserving your digital legacy. So sometimes there are events from partners about genealogy or family history or organizing and digitizing your materials. And we try to post them here so that our community knows about them and can check them out. So I recommend checking this out every once in a while to see what's going on. The next thing that I want to show you is our knowledge base. And our knowledge base is basically all of the support resources and information about how to use Permanent. So you can find that under the guides tab right here. And that's going to take you to a separate site. And this has basically all of our help documentation. So if you ever have a question about a particular feature on Permanent or how to do something, this is a great place to start looking to get additional help. There's also for the people who have who are using Permanent on a mobile app. We do have a mobile app section. We are still working on fleshing that out a little bit. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, but that section is there as well. And this is actually one of the places where you can reach out to us if you need to. So there are 3 different ways that you can reach out and send us a support request. If you ever have any questions or run into bugs, or even if you have an idea of something that you'd like to improve on Permanent that you want to share with us. So the first way is over here in the bottom right corner. There's a little chat icon. You can click that and leave us a message with your name and email address, and we'll get back to you. The second way is to scroll down to the very bottom of the knowledge base and click submit a ticket. This gives you a similar form where you can put in your name and your information, and that'll send us an email. The third way to reach out to us is to send an email to support@permanent.org. That also creates a ticket like this, and we'll be able to respond to any questions that you have. The last couple of things that I want to show you are back on our homepage of permanent.org. If you scroll to the very bottom, you can see that we've got a couple of social media sites. So we are on Instagram and Facebook. We're also on Mastodon, which is similar to Twitter. And we also have a YouTube channel. So if you click this little YouTube icon, that's going to take you to our YouTube channel. And here you can find previously recorded webinars, short videos to help you get started. So I definitely recommend checking this out if you just want to explore Permanent more or have any questions about how to get started. And we are constantly trying to add more videos, so check that pretty often. I am going to switch back over to my slideshow here, and we're going to move on to the last part, which is now that you've kind of gotten a little bit of an overview of who we are at Permanent and what you can expect on the platform, we'll talk about what your next step should be. So there are 5 things that you can do right now to kind of get the ball rolling, get started on preserving your materials on Permanent. So I'm going to tell you what those 5 steps are, and then I'm going to show you how to do them in the platform. So the first one is to redeem your free storage. Like I said, when you signed up for Permanent, you should have gotten an email that gives you some free storage to get started risk-free on Permanent. So definitely redeem that so that you can use it and try it out. You can fill out your archive profile. You can upload your first 2 images to set as your profile picture and banner. You can create a legacy plan, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second. And then you might want to start making a plan for your materials and how to get them to Permanent. So I'm going to switch back over to my archive and we'll go through all of those. So the first thing that you want to do is redeem your storage. Like I said, you should have gotten an email from Permanent that has a short code that you can enter to redeem your storage. If you don't know where that email went or you didn't get one, you can always feel free to reach out to us at support@permanent.org, and we can check in with you and make sure you get the right code so that you can redeem it. So to redeem your storage, that has to do with your account. So we're going to go over to the top right corner where you've got your email address and then click to open the menu. And then under storage, over here on the left side, there are a couple of different tabs. And the tab that you're looking for is redeem gift. So we're going to click on that. And then you can copy the gift code from your email and paste it in here. Click redeem, and that's going to redeem your storage. You'll know you're successful because you should see a message that pops up on the screen. And if we go back to the account menu over here on your storage bar, you should see that it says 1 gigabyte here. So that is going to enable you to do one of the next things, which is to start uploading your first files. And two of the first things that you might want to upload are 2 photos that you can use for your profile picture, which shows up here and on the public archive, and also your banner, which shows up on the public archive. So there are 2 different ways to upload to Permanent. The first one is to click this orange upload button here, and that's going to open a new window that has all of your files listed on your computer where you can navigate and select the files that you want to upload. The second way to upload on Permanent is to drag and drop. So you can take the files from your desktop or your file manager on your computer, drag them so that they're over this workspace, and then let go. And that will start the upload. An upload progress bar will show up here in the bottom right corner to show you the progress of your upload and to confirm when it's done. So once you've uploaded material, you can go to your archive profile to change your profile picture and banner. So to do that, you can click on this drop down here and then go to archive profile. And then you'll be able to click on change photo, and you'll be able to see the photos that you uploaded to your workspace and be able to select them. You do have to upload them to your workspace first and then come here. You're not able to upload them directly from these profile photo and banner icons. While we're here, another step that you can take is to fill out your archive profile, which you can do here. I highly recommend doing this as one of your first steps on Permanent, just because I think it's nice to start to get an idea of what story you're hoping to tell with your archive on Permanent. So for instance, if I wanted to create an archive about my grandfather's service in the military, for instance, I might want to change the name of the archive to specifically mention that. I might put some descriptions here that talk about, like when he was in service, what branch of the military he was in, what years he served, what places he traveled, or things like that. This just gives you really the opportunity to share things that might not be inherently obvious in the material that you want to preserve. At Permanent, we are hoping to be able to educate people on, how best to preserve their material. And part of that is making sure that the stories that are captured in photos and documents are preserved long-term as well. Because somebody who comes to your archive in 10 or 20 years, they might be able to see the document or the photo, but if you haven't told them who the people are in them, or what the story was, why the photo was taken, then that information might get lost over time. So the archive profile is definitely a great way to make sure that those stories persist. The next thing that I want to do is talk to you a little bit about legacy planning. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. So we have a pretty new feature on Permanent called legacy planning. And what legacy planning is a feature that allows you to decide what should happen to your archives after you are no longer able to take care of them. So if you pass away or become medically incapacitated or something like that. And so legacy planning on Permanent has a couple of different steps. The first step is to assign a legacy contact whose job it is to notify Permanent when you have passed or you've become incapacitated. And that is the trigger that kind of sets off your legacy plan into motion. The second step is to assign an archive steward for each of the archives that you own. And what that archive steward's role is to take over ownership of your archive when you've passed. So in that way, it's a way to kind of pass on the material to the next person. And we assist you on doing that through the platform. So I'm going to take you through those steps now. So the first thing that we have to do to set up a legacy plan on Permanent is set up a legacy contact for your account. So since that's our about our account, it's going to be in our account menu up here on the top right. If you click this and then go to account, and then over here on the left side, you're going to see a tab for legacy contact. And so this is where you're able to put in the name and email of the person that you want to be your legacy contact. The legacy contact does not need to be a permanent member in order to be your legacy contact. Their only role is to reach out to us via email and let us know that you have passed. And we verify their information by checking their name and their email against the information that you've put in here to make sure that they are who they say they are, and they are the person that you expected to contact us on your behalf. So if you need to edit your legacy contact's information, you can click edit legacy contact, put in their full name and their email address. They do receive an email when you save them as your legacy contact that just gives them a little bit of information about what their role is as a legacy contact and what to expect. We also recommend talking to the person before you set them as your legacy contact so that you can explain to them what to expect as well, and that they know that that email is coming and they should probably save it for future reference. You can always change your legacy contact as well in the future if you need to. So that's setting your legacy contact. Once you've done that, you will be able to set an archive steward for each of the archives that you are the owner of. So you can do that by going over here to the archive menu dropdown and then going to archive settings. And then in the new window that opens, you can click legacy planning. And this is where you can set your archive steward. Your archive steward does need to be a member of Permanent because they are going to essentially inherit ownership of your archive, and they need to be able to log into Permanent to do that. So before you even set them as your archive steward, they will need to have a Permanent account. If they don't already, you can invite them to join your archive or invite them to join Permanent, and they can create an account. Once they have created an account, you can click the Edit Archive Steward button here, and you can put in their email address that's associated with their Permanent account. The other thing that you can do with your archive steward is to leave behind a note for them. So your archive steward is going to receive two different emails. The first email they will receive right away after you set them as your archive steward, and that's just going to give them some instructions about what an archive steward is and what to expect. The second email they won't get until after your legacy plan has been put into motion, after you have passed. They're going to get an email that tells them that it's time to take over your archive, and they will get this note as well. So this is an opportunity to let them know what you hope they do with your archive, essentially. So if you want them to, for instance, publish your material after you pass, or you want them to continue building the archive or share it with other people, it's a great idea to put that information in this note so that they know what your wishes were for the archive. And if you ever need to change that, you can change it here. Just click the confirm button and it will save it again. So those are the things that you can do to get started on the platform. But before you even get started on Permanent, there's probably a lot of work that you have to do around getting your materials prepared for upload to Permanent and preservation. So these are just a couple of quick steps that you can take to kind of make a plan for your materials. Everybody's starting in a different spot. You know, sometimes people have materials, you know, that's been in a closet for years. Sometimes they know family members have materials and they need to collect them from their family members. So the first step is to discover. It's a good idea to try to collect all your materials in one place so that you can assess what you have, or at least start to make a list of where they are and maybe who you might need to ask to get copies of things. The second step is to curate that material. So depending on what you have, you may decide that you don't want to preserve all of it. Maybe there are things that are duplicates, or maybe there are things that you might not be able to digitize yet because it needs special care first. So it's a good idea to kind of organize and weed through to find the best materials that you want to preserve and kind of make a plan for what you want to start with. The third step is to start thinking about how you want to digitize that material. So do you have digitization equipment at home? Do you have a scanner? If you do, that's great. Definitely use what you have. It can be really challenging to digitize your materials. And I think our best advice is to kind of just start where you can, and you're going to learn lots of things through trial and error as you get started, to continue to make sure that your material is digitized as best as you can. So it's always kind of a good idea to start playing around and maybe writing up a short plan of procedures and settings that you found have worked for your particular scanner. If you don't have material or the infrastructure to digitize your materials yourself, we also have lots of connections with the photo managers and other digitization organizations that can help you digitize your stuff as well. So if you're interested in that, definitely feel free to reach out to us and we can help get you connected to someone who can help. So kind of to wrap this up, we've got 10 minutes left. If you'd like to share in chat or just write down somewhere for your own notes, it's a good idea to take a minute to write down what your next steps will be to get started on Permanent, whether that be to create an account or whether that be to start collecting all that material that you want to start organizing and digitizing. So we'd love to see what your next steps are in chat, and we will also open the floor up for any questions that people have that may not have gotten answered in chat so far. Han, if you can help me facilitate any of those questions, that would be helpful.
Yeah, wow, the chat has been amazing. Thank you everybody for all the great questions. I've really been typing away. We do have a question from Peter. Caitlin, if you could answer that for us. The question is, excuse me. One of my big concerns is the ability for others to be able to download my original files from public archives. Is there a way to turn off this feature, or will there be?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the short answer is there is a way to turn off the download button from your public archive, and I can show you how to do that real fast. So over here in the archive menu dropdown, we can go to archive settings and then the tab archive settings. And that's going to give you a couple of different things, but down here at the bottom on the public gallery page settings, there is a show download button. You can click show if you'd like to show that download button, or you can hide it so that people aren't able to easily download at least the originals. When you upload something on Permanent, we actually save it in a couple of different ways. We save the original file always, so you're always able to get your original file back from us. We also might convert it into different file types depending on what kind of file it is, for better preservation and better access in a browser. So for instance, if you upload a very high resolution TIFF image file, for instance, what you're seeing on Permanent might not be that original TIFF. It might be a JPEG that's a little bit smaller and easier to manage in a browser. You're always able to download that original TIFF file in your archive. But you might not want everybody to be able to do that if you publish that material. So that's where turning the download button off is helpful. Now, if you publish something on the internet, there's always the possibility that somebody could acquire a screenshot or something like that. And so there's always a little bit of a risk of publishing material, but this download button, hiding this download button does help ensure that people don't have easy access to that original file. Does that answer the question? Awesome. Thank you, Peter. That's a great question.
Awesome. Caitlin, there is another question that came in from Jean. What is the future plan for permanent.org? How do we know the platform will continue to exist for decades?
Yeah. I'm trying to see where that was in chat, but so that I just have reference to it, but I can't find it.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Jean would direct message that towards me.
Okay, gotcha.
Right now.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I definitely understand the concern around making sure that Permanent is sustainable. I think especially in past years, we've seen a lot of examples of websites that have, been acquired or been taken down suddenly, and you risk losing all of your content. And that's really stressful and, definitely something that we at Permanent are concerned about as well. I think what makes us different from a lot of other web platforms is that we are a nonprofit organization. And so our foundational mission isn't making money. We're not at risk of being bought and sold. Our purpose is to serve you by allowing you to preserve your materials on this platform. And the way that we do that is through our endowment model. So we rely on our members to make donations, buy storage, and that goes into our endowment so that we can keep running Permanent over time. We decided on $10 a gigabyte because of some complicated math about, how trends of how expensive cloud storage is right now, and how it keeps getting cheaper in the future. And with an endowment, of course, money that's in the endowment is going to continue to grow, and we can use that revenue from the endowment to continue running Permanent over time. We have a pretty wide range of donors, from our members all the way up to larger donors who are making significant contributions to keeping Permanent running. And so there is always a risk with using a platform like Permanent. We are doing everything we can in the structure of how we run to make sure that that's not an issue moving forward. In fact, one of the things that we've done recently is we inherited another company that was kind of similar to Permanent, and allowed through an in-kind donation. And we're ensuring that even though this company couldn't continue running on its own, that the people who are using that platform are able to still have access to the materials through Permanent. And so we hope to continue to be able to be a place where people can rely on ensuring that their material is preserved and passed on to the future. But we also do recommend that you explore other ways of preserving your materials. Good digital preservation practice is, I think it's the 3-1-1 rule, that it's good to have your digital materials stored in 3 different places, or 3-2-1, 3 different places, 2 different modes or different media. So like one in the cloud storage, one on a hard drive. I forget what the one is, but with digital preservation, it's always good to have multiple copies, and Permanent can certainly be one of those, but it's always good to kind of branch out and have your really important stuff in multiple places. Oh yes, offsite. Thank you, Peter. The one is making sure that at least one of them is offsite, so that all of your material isn't in one place if a disaster happens. That's an excellent question. And believe me, that is something that our entire team thinks about constantly, is making sure that Permanent can be sustainable in the future. We've got a couple more minutes. Does anybody have any additional questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and start this final poll. Go back to our slideshow. We just have one more question about kind of how you're feeling after this webinar. If you have any additional questions, and what would help you get started on Permanent. Awesome. Looks like people are feeling at least somewhat prepared. I know that learning a new platform is always a little bit overwhelming, but we're definitely here to help. We love hearing from you, whether that be a question that you have about getting started, or a bug that you found, or even if you just want to stop by and tell us how things are going. We definitely use our members' feedback to make Permanent a better experience. And so if you ever have any recommendations or things that you'd like to see on Permanent, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you more, understand what it is you're looking for, and see how we can help. So it looks like pretty much everybody has answered those questions. We'll go ahead and wrap up. But yes, please reach out to us at support@permanent.org if you have any additional questions. We do hold these orientations every month. So if you want to come back in a future month to review, we'll be here. Yeah, look forward to seeing what you do on Permanent. Thanks for joining today. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Bye, everybody. Thank you.